All right, intros first. I'm Reid Robison, psychiatrist, chief medical officer.
And I'm Paul. I'm a psychiatrist and chief scientific officer at Novamind.
So we get to do a fun little reaction video.
Let's do it.
Okay, someone on our LSD post said, at low dosage, I could see this being randomly positive depending on an individual's chemistry. But I think where LSD would show the greatest results is in the combination with a guide/psychoanalyst in overcoming trauma/PTSD.
Wow. Okay. The reality is we really just don't know the answers to lots of these questions. And so that's why we're doing these psychedelic clinical trials.
MAPS is studying MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD, and the results are kind of mind-blowing.
I think MDMA seems uniquely suited for trauma work. LSD, don't know if it's as well suited to that kind of work.
To be determined.
To be determined. Next question. I think Albert Hoffman already beat you to this.
Touche. Good point. True story. Shout out to Albert Hoffman with Bicycle Day upon us. I just love that story of how he discovered, synthesized LSD in the lab back in the 1930s, and then in the 40s went on probably the world's most famous bicycle ride on, 250 micrograms of LSD, because he didn't realize what he was dealing with and in the magnitude of the experience, especially in microgram doses. So he went on that bicycle trip and the world has been changed forever.
Well,
shout out to Albert.
We have him to thank for some of this research work we're doing now, don't we?
The next comment simply says, LSD will not is in all caps, help your anxiety.
So any powerful psychedelic drug has the potential to cause a lot of distress. So in these trials, in these clinical studies, we spend a lot of time creating a safe, supportive environment to minimize the chances that a person's going to have a distressing experience.
It's something fascinating about all these psychedelics, and when I try to take out the differences and focus on the common factors, you start to see how these are internalizing conditions with things like rumination, overthinking, excessive worrying, and conditions where you don't want them. If you shake that up, which psychedelics are quite good at, like dissolve the ego structures or tone down the default mode network, however you want to say it, then you have this opportunity to shine a light on the corners of yourself that you don't see, and also perhaps sync up some new pathways, have new insights that might help relieve some of that. All right, let's do a couple more, shall we? I read somewhere LSD can help cure alcoholism. It's worth researching. Alcohol ruins more lives than any other drug, and it's legal.
I think nobody will dispute that alcohol ruins a lot of lives, right? It's legal and it can be quite destructive, and it has been for lots of people. Can LSD help cure alcoholism? Well, this is an interesting question. And in fact, if you go back to the 50s and 60s, a lot of the early research was actually done with people that overused alcohol and with cancer patients that had end-of-life anxiety or distress. A lot of those early studies were not well designed. They weren't rigorous by today's standards, but they were still research studies, and you can go back and you can look at how they did them and you can look at the results, and there were quite a few positive results found in those early studies. Now, we probably need to follow up on those at some point and learn more, but there's a body of literature there around LSD and alcoholism.
Yeah, I love that comment. It gets a little bit personal for me because my grandmother died of alcoholism. And I love the story of how it originated, where you had this psychiatrist, Humphrey Osmond, who coined the term psychedelic, sitting there at a psychedelic conference at the hotel bar one night, chatting with his colleague about this crazy idea. What if we gave LSD for alcoholism? They're like, that's absurd. That elicits like a wild, scary, intense experience. But they're like, wait, our patients who are going through alcohol withdrawal and experience delirium tremens have a similar kind of dark night of the soul, and they tend to do better if they make it out of that. So then they proceeded to study it in like 1,000 or 2,000 individuals. And fast forward till now, some researchers in Norway just did a meta-analysis of the 12 LSD studies or so, 6 of them funded by the US government back in the day, and they showed an effect size of LSD for alcoholism of 1, which is a really good one. We're not going to get into the nuances of effect size, but that's like 2.5 times higher than the treatment as usual, 8-camprosate, that you take a pill and it makes you sick when you have alcohol. So of the estimated 100 million people that have died of alcoholism, it is staggering to me to think about how many people might have been saved by LSD if it weren't whisked away from the face of the earth by fear. And I am really looking forward to the day when we can study this again soon.